Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna give like 2 more minutes to allow some people to join, and then we're gonna get started with our session. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this coffee break. Today we have Dr. Jessica Bajohr with us for the second time. For those of you that were able to be with us last week on her session, this is gonna be also a continuation of what she spoke last week. Today she's gonna be speaking how to conquer emotional hunger. That I know it's something that is very common in the situation that we're living today. If you weren't able to attend last week's session, we're gonna post the video on the Abarca blog. So keep an eye on that if you weren't able to attend. And now I'm gonna hand it over to Dr. Jess so she can talk to us about the topic today.
Yes, thank you so much, Danny. Thank you again for inviting me for a second time, and so I can share all this information with you. Like she said, hopefully you'll be able to get a chance to catch up on last week's session if you weren't able to attend, just because really this is kind of a continuation. Last week I talked a lot about kind of rejecting the diet mentality and really changing our relationship with food, which is like the key to changing or to conquer emotional eating. So I know that emotional eating is a huge struggle for a lot of people, and like she said, particularly right now, is very much of a struggle for people who maybe didn't have emotional eating at this point. So that is what we're going to really talk about. So I'd love for you guys to like interact. So be available for the chat box. So I'll be asking you some questions, and I would love to hear your input. So let me go ahead. I have a presentation for you that I want to share. So yeah, so this little meme, I don't know if you saw this, something similar circulating around as far as when the quarantine is all over, which meeting do I attend first, AA or Weight Watchers? Just because this is a very common struggle with being at home, that a lot of people are under a lot of stress. We are just kind of fearful of what's going on right now. So we are maybe drinking a lot more than we usually are, or we are emotionally eating. So hopefully today, when I finish, you'll have a little bit more strategies to be more of a mindful eater and to help kind of conquer your emotional eating. So just to kind of recap what we talked about last week, like I said, this is a continuation, is that I kind of challenge you to reject this diet mentality and to make peace with food. So by making peace with food, what you're actually doing is you're giving yourself permission to literally eat whatever you want, but without punishment. So eating something that you actually enjoy, but not saying, well, tomorrow I'm going to restrict my calories, or tomorrow I'm going to do an extra workout just to kind of burn it off. And to kind of get rid of this idea of good and bad foods and putting all foods on like a level playing field. And the reason that we want to do this and why this applies to emotional eating is because when we put certain foods, specifically like unhealthy unnutritious foods, junk foods like that, when we put them up on a pedestal and we say that they're forbidden, it only makes that desire for those certain foods more heightened. So it's like telling that rebel teenager not to do something, or telling your kid not to touch something, and they go ahead and they want to do it anyway. So it's basically changing that mindset as far as, if there's certain foods like ice cream or junk food that you're saying, I'm not supposed to have that, that is bad for me, or I'm going to be, not behaving if I have that. The desire almost goes away once you allow yourself or give yourself that ultimate permission. So again, like I said, this week, hopefully that video will be up. You can go ahead and check that out if you weren't here. And then we also talked about 5 steps to create those particular habits. So just to continue on, a lot of the information that I'm going to be talking about today as far as mindful eating habits, it comes from a book called Intuitive Eating, and it was written by a dietitian, Evelyn Tribole. I'll actually put that in the notes for this session that will also go up on the blog, that you can go and check it out. And they talk about how there are 4 different types of eaters. And so I'm going to go through all 4 of these. I would love for you guys to put in the chat box which one maybe that you identify with. And you might identify with a couple of these. So a careful eater is someone who is, for the most part, pretty health conscious. They are very into fitness, they might be very into health, but they kind of earn their eating right to splurge on the weekend. So this is someone that was me, as far as I ate super clean, like I'd like to say, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday I kind of just fell off the wagon. So I felt like, well, maybe I deserve this because I ate so healthy and so clean early on that now I'm able to splurge or have cheat meals or something like that. Then we have the professional yo-yo dieter. So this is someone who's always trying something new. They're always trying a new shake or a new fast or a new diet book, only because the last one failed. So they're always trying to cut back. They're also someone who tends to be a chronic undereater. So they end up binging later on in the day. So I see this a lot with women. They might be also very busy during the day. They kind of eat very, very like a little bird during the day. And then all of a sudden they get home and like they can't stay out of the pantry, stay out of the kitchen. They're constantly eating to kind of make up for that. And then they talk about the Last Supper. The Last Supper is just, that basically thought of, this is my last day or my last meal, so I'm going to eat everything that I'm not going to be able to have tomorrow when I start my new diet. And then the unconscious eater, which I definitely can also empathize with, is someone who just completely eats, without awareness whatsoever. So always eating while watching TV or reading or working. This is in particularly important because your brain doesn't really necessarily register when you are eating if you're doing something else. So you're completely not being mindful about that. And the intuitive eater, which is something that we all want to kind of strive towards, which is someone who honors their hunger, honors their fullness, which we're going to talk about today, and actually enjoys the pleasure of eating. Because let's be honest, food is very important in our culture. It's part of celebrations, and to say that it's bad and good is, like I said, we want to get rid of those kind of stereotypes of food. So I want to know, which one do you maybe empathize the most with here? Let me see if I can check the chat box here. See some of you guys writing some stuff. Oh, I don't know why I can't see the chat box. Oh, there we go. A careful eater. Yes, a lot of careful eaters. And it's because, a lot of us are very health aware. There's a lot of information that is out there as far as health and what we're supposed to eat. And, that's a lot of what I do with clients, as far as most of us know what we are supposed to eat. It's just that we don't do it. And it really is a mindset game. So, just because when I say emotional eating, sometimes people just think of that stereotype of feeling sad or lonely and we're eating, out of a tub of ice cream. Emotional eating doesn't just have to do with sadness or being stressed. There's a lot of different components that it has to do with emotional eating. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So steps to quit emotional eating is honoring your hunger, feeling your fullness, discovering your satisfaction factor, meaning as eating what you actually love, what you actually like, And then coping, I'm going to go through how to cope with your emotions without using food. I wrote with food. It's supposed to be without food. That's a typo. So we're going to go over that with you right now. So the very first step in conquering emotional hunger, emotional eating, is to actually honor your hunger. So biologically, we might not necessarily feel hungry if we're used to ignoring it all the time. So typical feelings of hunger would be that grumbling of the stomach. Now, if you're someone who skips meals, or you're not listening to your body and you're listening to your brain instead, you might not be getting those signs of hunger. So you might be getting like a headachy kind of feeling. You might feel faint. You might feel dizzy. You might feel irritable. I call that hangry. That's me. I get a headache and I get almost like very snappy. So when I'm in my office, I usually take lunch at 1 o'clock, and sometimes I have people that show up very, very late, and then I won't be able to eat dinner or eat my lunch until 1:30, and my secretary knows, like, don't do that for me, because I get super irritable if I have people and I don't eat until like 1:30 or 2. Like, it's very bad. So sometimes we, like I said, we listen to our mind instead of our actual bodies because of a set of diet rules that maybe we've heard or we've told ourselves, or society has told us. So one of the perfect example is it time to eat? Well, how many of you have ever told yourself, it's not time for lunch and I'm hungry, so I'm not going to eat right now? Or how many of you said, like, well, do I deserve it? I shouldn't have, I just ate like an hour ago. I shouldn't feel hungry. Or maybe it's too much. So when you ignore your hunger cues, like I said, I see this a lot with women and men who are working through the day and they kind of get too busy, maybe even push through their lunch hour and they don't eat much. When this happens, we end up being more ravenous and we end up overeating in the long run, because your blood sugar basically drops way too low, and then you will grab anything that's unhealthy, that's processed, that's quick and easy. So I actually just posted this up on my Instagram yesterday, 5 silly diet rules to reject. So these are, again, these little diet rules that maybe we have told us. So we might not be actually honoring our hunger at this point. So not eating after 8 p.m. or right before bed. How many of you have ever been hungry after 8 or right before bed and you said, I shouldn't eat right now because you're not supposed to eat right now, so you went to bed hungry? Or how many of you have ever said that? This one's going to come up next. If you don't clean your plate, you're wasting food. So this is more of what's the word I'm trying to say? Of breaking the rule of not honoring your fullness. I see the chat box blowing up, so I just wanted to check to see what you guys are saying here. Again, it's not coming up for me. I don't know why. Okay, so the second thing that you want to do to conquer emotional eating is to actually feel your fullness. Meaning, as you want to stop when you're actually full and when you're actually satisfied. So that clean your plate mentality that I just talked about. How many of you ever feel or were told growing up, you need to finish off your food because there are starving children out there, or it's a waste if you throw it away? So you end up not honoring your fullness because you end up eating after you're completely full. So it's easier actually to stop eating when you know that you can eat again later. So again, giving you that ultimate permission to eat when you want and what you want. So being more conscious when we eat is really the key here. So you want to actually taste and enjoy your food. So you need to eat slowly so that you actually have enough time for your brain to process that you are actually doing that activity. But then also you need enough time for your brain to release the hormone leptin, which is going to tell your body that you feel satisfied and that you are done. So it's necessary to basically take out some time just to take some pauses to evaluate your fullness. And you want to stop until you're about 80%. So that way you have that time, like I said, to be completely full. So basically reevaluate your fullness. And then again, like I said earlier, you want to eat without distraction. So not working while you're eating, not watching something, not reading something, but actually focusing your attention on enjoying your food and eating your food. So the next step is to actually discover your satisfaction factor, which means that you want to eat what you really want. So how many of you have ever gone out to a restaurant and said, I really want this, but this is probably not the best, healthiest option. I should probably go for something else. And then when you received it and you settled on it, you didn't really, really love it. So what I want you to do is, I don't really want you to settle. So if you are going out to a restaurant, hopefully when all of this is over, like I said, and you order a dessert and it's just not something that you really hoped it was going to be, I say that it's best if you don't love it, that just to leave it. So, and if you do love it, then to savor it. So this goes in particular with those unquote, quote, unhealthier dishes. So if it's something that you really just wasn't all that you hoped to be, you don't have to eat it. You don't have to finish it. Just leave it be. But if it's something that you really, really love, like a thing of chocolate cake, enjoy it, savor it, eat it. But when you eat something and you feel unsatisfied, you will tend to end up overeating it just because you're trying to fill the void. So again, going back to, let's say, going out to a restaurant and you decide, I'm not gonna get dessert. I shouldn't get dessert. It's really unhealthy and I'm trying to cut back. So you skip on the dessert. But then you end up going home and you keep thinking about, wow, I really wish I got that special dessert. And instead you go to your cupboard and you look for something else to fill the void. And then you end up eating more of that, or you move on to the other thing, just in search of something. So you really want to pay attention and take account when you are eating certain foods, the taste, the smell, the texture, the appearance even, because all of that, is a factor, and it's going to change, day by day. So I know a lot of people, they tend to reach for something that is crunchy. Crunchy actually has a lot to do with emotional stress, because chewing something, almost gives away this, the mastication, the action of mastication provides some kind of stress relief. So if you're someone who's always looking for a crunchy chip or a crunchy cracker, definitely stay in tune to see how you're feeling at that particular point, because it might be just something that you can find that's a healthier version that is just, or something that we're going to talk about later, as far as trying to relieve the stress, but in another way. So again, I want you to sit down. I want you to eat. So not standing at the counter. That's something that I'm trying to do on a regular basis. Eating slow, tasting every single bite. And most importantly, you want to eat when you are just gently hungry, not overly hungry. Because when you are overly hungry, like I said earlier before, if you are used to not listening to your hunger, then you're more likely to overeat. You're over likely to binge or to eat too quickly, and not be as mindful. So coping with emotions without using food. Go ahead and put in the chat box, what are maybe some emotions that you particularly feel when dealing with emotional eating? See if the chat box comes up for me now. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm sharing this.
Jess, sorry, if you go into the banner that you see towards the top of your screen, you should see the chat there. Since you're presenting, that's why the chat moves up. Try to see if you can see it there.
Yeah, no, I'm pushing chat, Alt H, and not the box isn't popping up.
That's weird.
I'm wondering if, and I don't know why, because let me see if I get out of the show. That might be why. Yeah, I don't know why. Could you read me off some of the chats for me to see what people are saying as far as what emotions?
Yes, right now we have anger and anxiety, procrastination, sedation by chocolate. And then some other people were just commenting that they identify when you said that they get hungry at night, very hungry at night.
Yes. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen when you get hungry at night. It could be a biological hunger. Like I said, I see this a lot with a lot of people that I work with, that they just are under eating the whole day. Like they eat like a little smoothie for breakfast or granola bar, lunch they have like a little salad, and then they're like wondering why they're famished at the end of the day. It's because they didn't eat enough calories. So it's biologically like your body's way of being like, eat. You need this as fuel. Another thing that I do see that why nighttime is also particularly difficult is because we are going all day long. Like we are almost distracted with our day, whether that's, at work and then picking up the kids and then making up dinner. And then, you put your kids to bed, or, or even if you are home alone, it's hard for you to just sit and relax and to be alone and to be in with your thoughts. So there's a lot of issues that might come into play at this point. So that could be the boredom. It could be the anxiety. So a lot of these things are very, very common for people to have this at night. So yeah, we might not necessarily think as procrastination as an actual emotion that is associated with emotional eating, but I see this also very common. So as far as dealing your emotions with food, there's really, there's like a spectrum where on one side, it's like sensory gratification, which is mild and is completely fine, which is, like I said, wanting something that's crunchy just for the sake of crunchy, or wanting something chocolatey because you want something chocolatey. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you are following the other rules of, am I hungry, or if I'm, am I going to be eating past my fullness. There's also a level of comfort as well, and that is also normal as long as you're following the rules. So as far as comfort, that's like wanting, soup when you're sick, or something that brings you comfort. I love osabao, by the way, and like that's my new thing that's replaced my old chicken noodle soup. So when I'm feeling under the weather, that's something that I crave and that I want, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then once we start to getting into just using food as a distraction for not actually feeling our emotions, and then all the way to the most severest form was when people actually are sedating themselves, whether that's food or, like I said, alcohol. And this is more people who have food addictions, which I have a client that has been dealing with that for years. And she's doing great with all of the strategies that I provided her with this. So this is basically my 5 steps with dealing with emotional eating. And this is something that I even take myself through when I find myself aimlessly going to the kitchen, and I ask myself, well, number one, am I biologically hungry? Am I actually physically hungry? If the answer is yes, then of course, then what we're going to do is we're going to honor our hunger. We're going to eat. It doesn't matter what time it is. So if it's 9 o'clock at night and you actually biologically hungry, it's okay to have a little bit of a snack. It's okay to have a little bit of something. Now, if the answer is no, if you're not actually biologically hungry, this is where you're going to ask yourself, well, what am I feeling? Sometimes this is really obvious, like I feel stressed, I feel anxious about what's going on right now in the world, or I feel a little bored. But sometimes it's not so obvious, believe it or not. And so this might be a good time to either call a friend, maybe just sit down and give yourself a few minutes to actually experience, to figure out what you're needing. If you're someone that's on that spectrum of sedation, or where this is, a little bit out of control, then a therapist would obviously be the better what I'm trying to think of is a better way to deal with that. But journaling and writing down your feelings is actually very, very helpful, and it's very underrated, I believe. And a lot of people don't really write in their diary or their journal anymore, but this was something that I have used that has actually been very, very, very helpful when I started to actually write down my thoughts. There's another book I will definitely share with you. It's called The Artist's Way, and she talks about morning pages. And she talks about basically when you wake up in the morning that you spend about 15 or 20 minutes just to like brain dump your thoughts onto the piece of paper. So you don't think about what you're thinking. You just basically write whatever is on your mind. And that was really helpful for me. Do I have that much time every single day? No, but I've been doing this very frequently, and it's helping me deal with what's going on in my head, specifically anxiety. And so I I definitely suggest this to anybody, just to get an old-fashioned, like you can get like an old-fashioned notebook, and then just start writing down your thoughts. And this can be at night, when you're not, if you're feeling that anger, if you're feeling that anxiety, just to getting out your thoughts. So the third step is to, once you figure out what you are feeling, is to ask yourself, well, what do I actually need? Because if you're going towards food for stress or for anxiety, you're really not fixing the problem. You're not really getting rid of that emotion. You're really distracting yourself. So this is where where it gets a little bit tricky. If you are stressed or you're feeling anxious, then definitely reframing your thoughts around whatever you're feeling will help. Maybe getting in some more self-care. So self-care can become in different ways. It doesn't have to be like going and getting a mani-pedi and having champagne. It doesn't have to be so, something like that. Especially now, we're not able to do certain things like that. And it is a little bit more difficult being at home in quarantine to getting in your self-care. But this could be something as simple as, reading a book, or doing some meditation, or taking a bath with some essential oils. This could be going outside and getting some fresh air, doing like some walk. Maybe this is that you just need a little bit more rest or sleep. If you are someone that tends to go to sugary items, more sweet stuff, a lot of times people turn to this is when they are tired and they are fatigued. So, going for more sugar is only going to make you more burned out in the long run. So if you find yourself looking for carbs, if you're looking for that sugar stuff, then think about if that could be a possibility of, just getting a little bit more sleep that night. As far as asking for help, maybe this is just that you need a little bit more time for yourself, folks. So these are all just ways that you can basically deal with your emotions other than eating. And then lastly is just actually dealing with them. So like I said, going back to that writing down your journal, writing something down, describing how you're feeling, just kind of acknowledging it is like the biggest step. So for me, when I was dealing with emotional eating, I didn't really realize that I was stressed. I always thought that everyone else probably, it could be worse, or there was always someone that would have having bigger problems than I was. And I was very much a perfectionist, very much always searching for the next goal, always being very organized. So I never would admit to myself that I was stressed or I was dealing with anxiety. So like the very first step was just me admitting that, like, you know what, I am under a lot of stress. I am dealing with all of these things. And again, just writing them down, doing meditation daily has really, really helped me as well. So the last step is just to distract yourself in other ways. So this could just be taking a couple of deep breaths and, coming back to it, or reading a book, watching a movie, going outside again for a walk, doing something around the house, even maybe taking a nap. So I hope all of that was a little bit helpful. What do you guys think so far? Any questions on this at all? Any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. No questions, huh? Okay, so then for this week's action step.
Sorry, Jess, someone said, how about drinking water as a way to refrain from that thought of being hungry? When you feel very hungry for no reason, that's what she's saying.
Yeah, I mean, that can definitely help. Sometimes we do feel this false hunger when it can in fact be dehydration. So sometimes, having a big glass of cold water will definitely help. If you go ahead and you do the cold glass of water and then like 10 minutes later you're hungry, then it's more likely that you're really hungry. I also find like chamomile tea being really helpful, particularly at night, especially if you are in the beginning stages of trying to like cut back on unnecessary sweets. So I was never really a sweet person. I wasn't really like a dessert person. I was more into like salty, like crackers, chips and stuff like that. And they actually say that people who crave those things, it's more for a stress kind of thing. People who crave more sweets and stuff like that, that's more of like fatigue kind of stuff, being tired, like I said. So I never really was a sweet person, but my husband was, and he would always have something sweet or like dessert or a cookie or anything after dinner every night. And so I would like join him, and I eventually got kind of addicted to having that sweet ending after every single meal. And so it did take me a little while to kind of break out of that habit. And because sugar it's very addictive. It's like a drug. It basically alerts the part of the brain that is similar to other drugs like morphine and cocaine and stuff like that. So it's like a reward almost. And so it is a habit that you have to kind of break. But drinking like chamomile tea helped me because it has that like calming effect as well. And so like I was saying earlier before, a lot of us are like going. We're constantly doing something. So it's hard for us to almost like relax when we get home. Like we want to be doing something. And so sometimes that eating is that action of doing. So by doing the chamomile tea you're hydrating, but you're also giving that calming effect to kind of just help you relax. So that, water is definitely great as well. As long as, again, you're not trying to distract yourself from hunger. Any other questions?
Nope.
Well, like I said, these are going to be your action steps for the week. I would love for you guys to go to the blog. If you didn't see last week's video, be sure to check it out this week to kind of catch up. And then I want you to comment under the post what sort of foods that you crave the most and what you're going to do instead of mindless snacking. So give me like some kind of action, whether that's I'm going to do some meditation, I'm going to do some yoga, I'm going to go outside for a walk, I'm going to read a book, listen to music or something like that. And then I want you to take the following steps to be more mindful when you're eating. So we're going to remove all the distractions. So not watching TV, not working or reading while we're eating. We're going to actually sit down and enjoy our food. So eating slowly, taking mindful pauses to kind of reevaluate our fullness throughout the meal. We're going to eat when we are just gently hungry, not ravenous, and we're going to stop at our 80% fullness level. Any questions on that so far either? So I think that pretty much wraps up the presentation if you guys don't have any questions. Again, like if you have any questions following up and you want to ask me, you can reach me on Instagram and Facebook. I usually hang out the most in Instagram. I do a lot of free content, live videos and stuff like that. And then here's my email if you have any other questions as well. Oh, the chat box seemed to pop up for me now. Oh, of course, now it does. So I hope you guys thought this was helpful. Also, let me know what your biggest takeaways were as well. Just going back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Thank you to everybody. I hope this was great.
Thank you.
A lot of people saying a lot of clarity. Good. Great. I'm so glad that you guys you found this helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Jess.
You're welcome.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Omar, are you there?
Hi, Jess.
Hey, how are you?
It was.
Okay, so I'm going to send you over the information, the content for this session.
Yeah. I just record the session, so I will send the information to Veronica. That's the one that worked, as I mentioned before. So she's gonna like edit it and publish it also with the last week's session. So as soon as you send me the content, I will send it back to her.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
So basically, for I don't know if we're going. I'm gonna regroup with the team this week and see what we are gonna like moving forward for next week's. What we're gonna do, like what we are our intentions. So if we think that we want to like repeat a continuation, make some more serious about this information, I will contact you and let you know through Marilis or basically me directly. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can do something completely different that has nothing to do with this.
But I think it have received a good engagement. People like this type of topics. And I think many people connected today, like 31, I saw like 31, 32, that is a good participation. So yeah, I, I, I see a good chance to maintain repeating these type of sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I can do a lot of more mindset stuff as far as like mindset motivation, just changing your mindset around food or health. Again, I can do it about anxiety, a different perspective as far as changing our thoughts about what's going on right now. It has a lot to do with self-care. I can even talk about, you know, chiropractic stuff as far as workstation, working at home, being more comfortable as far as ergonomics, because I know people are working at home, that's an issue. I forget what other recommendations I put in the first email.
I think was aligned with the wellness part, like diets and so on. I think chiropractic is that it could be good, a good like, because some of us doesn't have the equipment, the right equipment to work at home. Some of us do, but others don't. Like me, for example. I'm like, I wasn't expecting to move at home, like work 100% remotely, so I don't have like the desk ergonomics setup. So I think that's could be a good topic to talk about. So let me regroup with the team and see what they think and see next steps and decisions.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Thank you.
So Jessica, I just referred information about the payment to the finance team. Supposed to to proceed with the payment at the end of the week, Friday, I think. So
Okay.
please let me know if you receive it, like a confirmation.
No problem.
I will go to finance team. The finance team.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity, and I hope
Thank you
to
for participating. Thank you, Jess.
see everyone next week. Yeah. Bye. Take care. Have a good day.